Oh, hello, great readers. I'm Belchan.
I'm Nimakung.
I'm Banchan.
In this class, I'll read to all of you a part of Great Expectations.
As.
Ah.
Great Expectations. Charles Dickens. Chap 57 Sec 1. Now that I was left wholly to myself, as my tendency could legally determine, and in the meanwhile to underlet them, at once I put bills up in the windows. For I was in debt, and had scarcely any money, and began to be seriously alarmed by the state of my affairs. The fact that I was feeling very ill, the late stress upon me enabled me to put off this, but not to put it away. I knew that it was coming on me now, and I knew very little else, and was even careless as to that. For a day or two, I lay on the sofa, or on the floor in a whir, according as I happened to sink down with a heavy head and aching limbs, and no purpose, and no power. Then there came one night which appeared of great duration, and which teemed with anxiety and horror. Of it, I found I could not do so, whether I really had been down in Garden Court in the dead of the night, groping about for the boat that I supposed to be there, Tor, not knowing how I had got out of bed, whether I had found myself lighting the lamp, possessed by the idea that he was coming up the stairs, and that the lights were blown out, whether I had been inexpressibly harassed by the distracted ducking, often, and groaning of someone, and had half suspected those sounds to be of my own making, whether there had been a closed iron furnace in a dark corner of the room, and the voice had called out, over and over again, myself and get into some order, as I lay that morning on my bed, but the vapour of a limacon would come between me and them, disordering them all. Then, what do you want? I asked, starting. Well, sir, returned one of them, bending down and touching me on the shoulder. This is a matter that you'll soon arrange. I dare say. £123. 15. This. Shiller's account. You had better come to my house, said the man. I made some attempt to get up and dress myself. When I next attended to them, they were standing a little off from the bed, looking at me. I still lay there. You see my state, said I. I would come with you if I could, but indeed I am quite unable. If you take me from here. Perhaps they replied, or argued the point, or tried to encourage me to believe that I was better than I thought, for as much as they hang in my memory by only this one slender thread. I don't know what they did, except that they forbore to remove me, that I had a fever and was avoided, that I suffered greatly, that I often lost my reason, that the time seemed interminable, that I confounded impossible existences with my own identity, that I was a brick in the house wall, then that I was a steel beam of a vast engine, clashing and rolling over a gulf. And yet that I implored in my own person to have the engine stopped. My part in it hammered off. That I passed through these phases of disease. I know of my own remembrance. And didn't and so know at the time. That I sometimes struggled with real people. In the belief that they were murderers. And that I'd all at once comprehend that they meant to do me good. And would then sink exhausted in their arms. And suffer them to lay me down. I also knew at the time. But above all, I knew that there was a constant tendency in all these people at home, when I was very ill, would present all kinds of extraordinary transformations of the human face, and would be much dilated in size above all. I say, I knew that there was an extraordinary tendency in all these people, sooner or later, to settle down into the likeness of Joe. After I had found the worst point of my illness, I began to notice that while all its other features changed, this one consistent feature did not change. Whoever came about me still settled down to Joe. I opened my eyes in the night, and I saw, in the great chair at the bedside, Joe. I opened my eyes in the day, and then, sitting on the window seat, smoking his pipe in the shaded window, still I saw Joe. I asked for cooling drink, and the dear hand that gave it me was Joe's. I sank back on my pillow after drinking. Joe. At last, one day, I took courage and said, and the dear old home bracing suit, would she dare? Oh Joe, you break my heart. Look angry at me. Joe, strike me. Joe, tell me of my ingratitude. For Joe had actually laid his head down on the pillow at my side and put his arm round my neck. In his joy that I knew him, which the old pip, old chap, said, Joe, you and me was ever friends. After which, Joe withdrew to the window and stood with his back towards me, avoiding his eyes. And as my extreme weakness prevented me from getting up and going to him, I lay there, innocently whispering, oh God bless him. Joe's eyes were red when I next found him beside me, but I was holding his hand, and we both felt happy. How long? Would she mean to say? How long have your illness lasted? It's the end of May. Pill? And have you been here all that time? Pretty I. Old chap. Borrow. That which it were brought by the post. And shoe leather. But wealth were not object on his part. It is so delightful to hear you. Joe? Which were, said Joe. That how you might be among strangers. And that how you and me having been ever friends. Or was it as such a moment might not prove unacceptable? And Biddy, her words were, oh to him, without loss of time. That, said Joe, summing up with his judicial air. were the word of Biddy. Go to him, Biddy say, without loss of time, in short. I shouldn't greatly deceive you, Joe added, after a little grave reflection, if I represented to you that the word of that young woman were. Joe cut himself short, and informed me that I was to be talked to in great moderation, and that I was to take a little nourishment as stated frequent times, whether I felt inclined for it or not, and that I was to submit myself to all his orders. So I kissed his hand, and lay quiet, while he proceeded to indite a note to Biddy, with my love in it. Evidently Biddy had taught Joe to write. As I lay in bed looking at him, it made me, in my weak state, cry again with pleasure to see the pride with which he set about his letter. My bedstead, divested of its curtains, had been removed, with me upon it, into the sitting room, as the raced and largest, and the carpet had been taken away, and the room kept always fresh and wholesome night and day. At my own writing table, pushed into a corner encumbered with little bottles, Joe now sat down to his great work. Tools, sledgehammer, oboe, and to get his right leg well out behind him, before he could begin, being 6 feet long, while at every upstroke I could hear his sputtering extensively. It was not, and constantly dipped his pen into space. To be continued.